Mr. President, I'm here this afternoon for a brief few moments to pay tribute to an Alaskan that we lost just within the past 2 weeks. My state is a state that's well known for the strength of its nonprofit sector, and we lost one of our leaders of that sector. A very special person who is beloved by many. This is a gentleman, a friend, by the name of Jim Balamaci. And Jim was the president and chief executive officer of Alaska Special Olympics. He unexpectedly passed away at the age of 63. This Sunday I'm going to be home, and I will join with thousands who will fill the Alaska Airlines Arena on the University of Alaska Anchorage campus to pay tribute to Jim and to celebrate his contributions to Special Olympics. Jim was really a giant in Special Olympics, both at the local level and at the national level. And I think it is most fitting that the celebration of Jim's life will occur during the weekend of the Alaska Special Olympics Winter Games. This is going to provide an opportunity for the many Special Olympians, for the coaches, the volunteers. I'm actually going to be there to help pass out awards there. But so many of us whose lives have been touched by Jim's inspiration will be able to gather together to show our love and our admiration for, again, a truly great man. Being born in Alaska affords one a certain quantum of bragging rights when it comes to leadership. But the truth be told, when the history of Alaska post-statehood is written, it's people like Jim who came from somewhere else and chose to make Alaska their home. Their lives will be remembered for making Alaska the extraordinary and very special place that it is. Jim really fit that bill. Our NBC affiliate in Anchorage, KTUU, said, if there was ever an Alaskan who wore his heart on his sleeve, it was Balamaci. And then in a 2017 interview with KTUU, Jim explained what makes Alaska so special in words that really just show how significant a figure he will be remembered as. He said, we build our communities, we build our state, and we build our friendships. And that, in a nutshell, really explains the DNA of post-statehood Alaska. Jim absolutely got it, and I think that that's why, one of the reasons why, he has earned a place in history as well as in our hearts. Jim was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He was active in sports. He was active in church. He entered a pre-theology program at St. Vladimir's Orthodox Theological Seminary in Yonkers, New York. He was concurrently a student at Iona College in nearby New Rochelle. He graduated from Iona in 1976. And then a year after graduation, Jim left the suburbs of New York City to pursue his Alaskan adventure, his Alaskan dream, and he moved north. He settled in Kodiak, pretty remote, not on anybody's road system. He worked in the commercial fisheries there. He was a carpenter, he was a teacher, he kind of did it all. And that's when he began his career, his lifetime of volunteer service. He began volunteering with Special Olympics in 1979, and shortly thereafter he moved into coaching. He was selected as president and CEO of Special Olympics in Alaska in 1996. Now, back in 1996, there were about 400 athletes around the state. Jim grew that universe of athletes, of Special Olympians. Alaska's Special Olympics community today includes some 2,000 athletes, and I can tell you, they are all friends of Jim's. In a career as rich as Jim's, it might be difficult to identify just one or two experiences that were truly exceptional, but I would bet that Jim would probably say that he was most proud of the 2001 World Special Olympics Winter Games that were hosted in Alaska. We had over 3,000 athletes from 80 countries who participated in the event. Eunice Kennedy Shriver, who of course is the founder of Special Olympics, reportedly told Jim that it was the best World Winter Games in Special Olympics history. So that was substantial praise from the founder of Special Olympics. And up until the last visit that I had with Jim here in Washington, D.C., Tim Shriver, who is also an extraordinary individual working within Special Olympics, has been there with Jim when they come to Washington to visit with me. Another capstone experience occurred in 2014 with the completion of the Special Olympics Alaska Athlete Training Center and campus. And I will tell you, Mr. President, this is a phenomenal facility, truly a one-of-a-kind facility. It's 28,000 square feet with a facility center. It's got an indoor track. It's got a multi-purpose sports court. It's got a kitchen where the athletes learn about nutrition. It was built at a cost of about $7 million, but it remains one of the world's only dedicated training centers for developmentally disabled athletes. So I've had occasion several times a year to be able to go out to their games where they have field hockey inside, the games that they are able to do and participate year in, year round in a place like Alaska. To have this training facility is absolutely exceptional and unparalleled. When we think of Special Olympians, we typically tend to think of younger athletes. But as young Special Olympians age, they still remain Special Olympians. And Jim saw this. We've had so many conversations where he was talking about just the demographic, the aging population that we are seeing among our Special Olympians and those that are developmentally disabled. And he says we cannot not be thinking about their future as well. And Jim was truly a pioneer. He worked in developing the Aging Unified Athlete Program with Special Olympics leaders across the country to ensure that developmentally disabled athletes live long and healthy lives. So focusing on lifetime learning, but really making sure that at all ages there is engagement. Jim had an extraordinary heart, big heart, warm personality, and he was just so loved. I cannot convey it enough. He was loved by not only those within the community of Special Olympics, but within the broader Alaska community at large. I certainly saw this this fall when the torch run was being put on, which is a partnership with our law enforcement along with our Special Olympians. Again, a coming together of communities to provide support for one another. Jim could motivate and charm with the best of them. And you need look no further for evidence of that than to be out at a place called Goose Lake in Anchorage, Alaska, third week in December, because Jim Balamaci is a guy who could get thousands of Alaskans, literally thousands of Alaskans, to jump into a hole in a frozen lake in December to raise money for Special Olympics. And if you've never dressed up in costume to jump into a hole, this is not something where you can wait out to get your feet wet and say, I've done the polar plunge. This is a polar plunge where you go into that hole and you're swimming, and it's December in a frozen lake. I was out there in December of this year. But Jim Balamaci reminded us that we were all there freezing for a reason, he would say, and that reason was to help Special Olympics and Special Olympians. He was an extraordinarily special person to so many of us. So on behalf of my Senate colleagues, I send our condolences to Jim's mother, Frusina. She visited him often during his 40-year Alaska adventure. We send our condolences to his sister and brother and to all those who were touched by Jim's kindness and generosity. Alaska and our Special Olympians across the country are better because of Jim Balamaci. With that, Mr. President, I thank you and I yield the floor.